So today we're looking at our next section, which is 8.4. And so in 8.4, what we're going to be doing is talking about multiplying special cases of FOIL. So there are a couple of cases that allow us to have some shortcuts in order to work through some of these problems. And so we like the shortcuts. So with that, these are formulas to memorize. They're going to help us coming up in a couple sections go so much easier. So let's go ahead and start looking at some of those. So we're going to investigate these. Had we been in class, we all would have been assigned groups to work these out. And so I'm going to pause it, and I want you to pick one of these to work out. And so I'm going to wait like 30 seconds, and then I'm going to show you all of the answers to these so that we can talk about them and try and figure out, man, what's maybe a formula we can use to work these out. So your 30, 40 seconds starts now. Go ahead and work those out. Press pause on the video because I'm now going to go ahead and work out some of these answers. So hopefully you did press pause and you didn't just wait to get the answers from me. But here are the answers to all four of these. And so even though they have different variables and different numbers, they actually do hold some properties that are really similar that will help us create a formula. So if you look at, first of all, with all of these, notice I'm multiplying the exact same two binomials together. So the formula we're going to make is only going to work if I'm multiplying the same binomial together. So when we do that, what's going to happen is, notice the first term, once it's in standard form, actually matches up to squaring that first term. So x times x is x squared. And then the 64 at the end is that second term squared, because 8 times 8 is 64. So for those two terms, does this pattern hold? So 2p squared, 2 squared is 4, p squared is p squared. So it does match up down here. And then using 3, I'm circling in this last binomial just because it's a little closer. But I could also circle in that first one because they are the same. 3 times 3 is 9. And so this does happen to where they do match up in all of these, which is something that's going to work into our pattern. So I use that last term, and that first term and I square it, that last term I square them, I'm going to add them together. But how in the world do I end up calculating that middle term? Well, when you were using FOIL, one thing you did do, or you should have done, is multiplying these two and those last two together. Well, I ended up multiplying the same two things together, so I had 8 times x, but I had two of them, so I had 2 8x, which gives me my 16x. So does that pattern hold? So I have 5y, so I would have 2 times 5y. I found a boo-boo. I should have not had 10x. I don't know if any of y'all caught that. That should have been 10y, because my variable should match up. But so my 2 times 5 times y is 10y. And so this would be 2 times 3 times 2p. So 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. And then I hang on to the p. So down here I have 2 times 6 times 3p, which does give me my 36p. So this is going to lead me into the formula. So when I have two of the exact same binomial multiplied together, I can also write it as a shortcut, because remember, when we're multiplying things that are the exact same, we can use exponents. So I could also write it as a plus b squared. So when we're multiplying this perfect square binomial, which means I have two of the exact same kind, I can square my first term, square my last term, and then multiply by positive 2ab. But what happens with subtraction? Okay, so once again, we're going to explore. Pause the video, work one of these out, pick which one you want, and we'll see what happens. so I'm hoping you pressed pause. But here are all of the answers. So it does look like a similar pattern follows, but what's the only thing that's different? That middle term. The middle term is negative. And so that happened because I was subtracting these terms. Okay, so because of that, it makes only the middle one negative, because I would have gotten, for example, negative 3 times d, and then negative 3 times that d for my outer and my inner terms. And so because of that, the middle one is negative, but if I went to multiply negative 3 times negative 3 to get that 9, the negatives become a positive together. So that's why only the middle term is negative. So our formula, much like the last one for subtraction, now I, once again, can write it either as a minus b squared or have the two binomials side by side. So you have to recognize, when am I allowed to use this formula? You're not allowed to use it all the time, only on perfect squares with addition or subtraction. So those are those two. So let's do some examples of using the shortcut. Yes, FOIL works, but knowing the shortcut makes some things coming up a little bit faster, and you have to show less work. Now you still have to show me work when using the shortcut. So to show me work, you would show me, I'm going to square my first term. Because this one's addition, my middle term's positive, 2 times x times 7, and then plus that 7 squared. Show me what you're going to do before you do it, because we all make simple multiplication mistakes, and I can't see what's going on if you don't show me. So in this case, that's going to give me x squared. So for this middle term, I have 2 times 7, which is plus 14, and then I keep the x, and then at the end, 7 squared is 49, because that's 7 times 7. And then that is my final answer. So it does shorten up by one step how much work you have to show than before. Yes, FOIL did work, but we want the shortcut for things that'll happen later. So let's go and look at another one. So this one, using the shortcut, I'm going to write my first term squared. Because I have subtraction up here, I'm going to have minus my 2 times my first term times my second term plus my last term squared. Okay, that negative is taken care of in the formula. We're going to use 2 to be the positive number 2. So remember, with exponents, this exponent goes to both the 6 and the m. So that's going to be 6 squared, m squared minus, well, 2 times 6 is 12. I need to multiply 12 times 2, so that's 24m. Plus, well, 2 squared is 4. Now, I'm not allowed to leave it that way because I know what 6 squared is. 6 squared is 36 because it's 6 times 6. M squared minus 24m plus 4. And that is my final answer. Okay. So let's talk about one more type, and then that's our whole entire lesson. So we also have a difference of squares. So what happens when my terms at the front and back of my two binomials are the same, but they have different signs? That's what we need to talk about next, because it's our last special group. This group is called a difference of squares because they have different signs but the same numbers. So pause it here, pick one of these out, work them out, and then we'll talk about all of them in a moment. So what happened with all 4 of these? Here are the answers. All of my middle terms, they went away. And that's because they had a difference of signs. Because with FOIL, when I multiplied my inner terms, in this case I was going to get positive 21c, and my 2 outer terms give me negative 21c. So when I add that together, that adds to 0. So when they have the same number but different signs, that middle term is going to cancel out. So that's why it's called a difference of squares. So our formula, which is our last one today, is provided here. And so pause the video if you need to, so you can take some time to write all this information down in your notes. So let's go do some examples of using the formula. So first off, using the formula, I have to recognize, hey, this one's a difference of signs because both of my signs are different. They're not the same. So I can't just use the sum formula or the difference formula. I have to use the difference of squares formula. So I will take my first term, 8p to the 4th, and we're going to square it. And then we'll always subtract my last term squared. So this first one has a couple extra steps that we have to be careful about because I'm going to have 8 squared times p to the 4th quantity squared. We're going to have to pull out all those exponent rules we learned before spring break back out to use them. And then this will be minus 1 squared, which is minus 1. So what's 8 squared? That is 64. And then don't forget, when you have these two together, a power to a power, I multiply it. So that's going to be p, 2 times 4 is 8. And then I will have my minus 1. And that is my final answer using the difference of squares. So that was your last problem. And so now you can log in and do your 8.4 skills check on Moodle. The worksheet is there and the assignment for you to drop it in is on there. And then tomorrow we're going to do a mid-chapter check. And the mid-chapter check is going to go in and take you through the process of reviewing 8.1 all the way up to 8.4. And it's going to serve as a quiz grade. And it's going to be in Moodle. And so you will have to show me work to get full credit. And so make sure you show work so you can do that. That's going to be up tomorrow. You are going to have to do that mid-chapter check between the hours of 9 in the morning and 3 p.m. So make sure to make time for that tomorrow on Thursday. I hope you have a great day. Bye.